be out of my mind. But you've had me underrated, rated. What's wrong with being, what's wrong with being, what's wrong with being confident? What's wrong with being, what's wrong with being? I wonder if I hold this through and also still be reasonable. This is my ground and I'm dangerous. Yeah. You say I'm complicated. I must be out of my mind. You've had me underrated, rated. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Oh. No. Not doing well today. Well, because if I were to draw out the situation as it stands mentally in my own damn head, it would be like, what? Yeah, no, it would be very much like this. For the mental path carved out in my mind. And this is about what I've trudged to most. Uh, uh, I crashed my car into the summer day when you were gone. Crashed my car into the bridge. I watched her let it burn. Yeah, no, it really is like that. I've learned to get back up from there pretty easy, and I'm starting to get better at this. This feels like a sheer fucking wall to climb up. The path you take will be the the path of least resistance will trap you the most because it'll take more energy to get out of. And that's the reason why I didn't want to just stay stuck. It's why I didn't want to just accept that I couldn't move on and leave be. Not because I hated them, but because I didn't want to ask unreasonable things of them. Yeah, one moment. I'll pull up the reference frame. Just give me a second. Well, I mean, that's true. But if I actually give the intention of catching, then I'm not going to ever catch you. Isn't that the case? I'm not looking for a relationship after all. When two avoidants fucking fall in love, one just becomes more anxious. Guess I'm the anxious one. They don't even know me that well. There's no way they fell in love. Critical thinking in relationships. I've got an entire folder full of reference points here. There it is. If you do not address your childhood traumas, your romantic relationships will. Yeah, no, that feels better. I don't even remember how to spell things consistently, damn it. Only reason why it worked before is because I fucking memorized it and left it to the back of my brain, but now that I've got more info jammed into the back of my brain, I can't rely on that. Couldn't fucking wouldn't be possible. I'm a pessimist. For a pessimist, I'm pretty optimistic. I wish I was. Fucking Trace is the optimistic one. Isn't that you just dismissing yourself? You also thought that there could be something. The only reason why you gave up was because I couldn't keep my cool. The only reason why you gave up on ever getting to know them more deeply was because you didn't think that they would want a relationship or want space for one either. You weren't the pessimist, you're the realist. Right now, you're being a pessimist. Oh, you say that when if we were to try and reach out, it would just trigger absolutely more fear and emotional overwhelm. You know well as I do that if it's actually true that they potentially have feelings for us, then it ultimately it's their body confusing attachment for fear, for danger, adrenaline. Okay, but is that really our place to do so? That's the question I don't think I have an answer for. Because you don't have an answer for it. You're not wrong there. What that's left in me. I may peer into the edge of the pit, but I've built like at least somewhat of a guardrail there. Because I can't afford to live there. No. That's death. Been been true since the start of my life. Will continue to be true throughout the rest of my life. Don't try to draw parallels between everything, girl. You don't need to. Penny for a needle. Pop goes the needle. Needle. Pop goes the weasel. There we go. Mm. Derelict little structure that fell over. Wish I was more capable, damn it. At least I like fucking sifted these feelings out to each of their ends. Fucking hell. No, that is my avoidant mechanism kicking in indeed, because I do want to value someone to the point where I desire to do that, but I don't want to give in to those desires if it's not welcome. Never would, never would be comfortable with that. Please, no. You're not worth such shallow attention. No one should ever be worth that, besides enemies. Because I hid the struggle I was dealing with? Reasonable, I broke your trust. Closest thing to healthy love we've got here. The, depending on the person, the shape of this slope and the way this is arranged is probably going to be different terrain per person relative to the life they've lived and what they personally believe. I don't know what to put here. I haven't reached it consistently enough to. Imagine if I had started, like, with each of these being, like, fucking narrow walls, but instead I've carved it out over time and effort. Now I'm just trying to get over to understand this section well enough to be able to do the same thing. Because I've gotten up here before, but clearly I'm messing something up. I'm not even making these recordings to change someone's mind. I'm trying to do it to heal. Remind myself that I wasn't fucking crazy. Oh, oh, I don't like that. But it is pretty much what it felt like. Like it was just row upon row of ledges and spikes that tried to sink anger, toxicity, and frustration in. I would never be willing to do that for you if you didn't like it. And I couldn't tell, so I assumed you didn't. Sorry. You're being such a source of stress in your life. Okay, so today is one of those kinds of days. Fun. I'm gonna redraw this because and this. I haven't even eaten anything yet. Like, at most, I had some goldfish today. Oh, this is a song I haven't heard in a while. And yet, the irony of all ironies here is that you can't avoid the obsession. Because what else the fuck? If you're going to crawl your way out of here, you have to figure out what materials got intermixed with the obsessive material. And how can you salvage something that can be used for yourself instead of having it rely all on someone who's not even there? That's not necessarily a fault of theirs, but at the same time it is. Life and trauma and bullshit is complicated. I don't even know. Hmm. Too big. Forego detail to accept a scale limitation and just to move on. Not a bad idea. No, what messes with me is the fact that I wanted to be around them so much, even despite knowing that they would not want me to be around that much. I was ashamed over the desire, not over my actions. What the fuck is this? Oh, get it off. No. I have to do this for myself. Fucking frustrating brain. This isn't even what I originally wanted to work on. I'll take progress where I can get it. Compressed history, save it, yeah. Trying to figure out your structure.png. Hmm. Slight discomfort is still better than having 4 ears. Passive curiosity. What the fuck is that thing? Hmm. Interest. Uh, uh, when you can think of someone as your idiot, that's when you know that you love them. Not because you're proud of them, not because fucking you necessarily are glad. How do we phrase this? Because on one hand, it means you recognize the other person's flaws and bad qualities and find them lacking, and yet you still care about them. That their positive qualities outweigh their negative ones. Oh, why am I even bothering? Passive curiosity. Get the I, the E, and the V closer together, please. The V not so much, but the E most definitely. And bring the C closer to the U. Hmm. Yeah. Pretty much. I'm doing okay. Ah. Yeah. Ironically enough, in my own healing journey, this is the layout I need to travel. But if, and this is me fucking talking bullshit, but if the other person was actually attached to me and they wanted to go through the work themselves, that would mean moving towards the very thing they fear. Right now, for me, I don't fear this. Or this. Not in the traditional sense. How do I put this? Because on one hand, yes, on another hand, no. The fiction of it, I'm not afraid of. The reality of it is something I am entirely unprepared for. And it's what I fucking panicked. Thankfully, though, uh, fantasy is all I've ever run into in life. I haven't met reality that actually mirrors that level of quality. That's why I'm willing to just be patient and leave people to grow. I don't know. Till I'm done exchanging names. Oh, you've been taking much too long trying to find what's going on. Wasting all my precious time while you're making up your mind. Not even in, like, harshness, just practicality. I've been waving that green flag and you still ain't moving. Playing games till I'm done. Exchanging names. No, part of me wishes I hadn't done research, but I'm glad I did do research on what I went through or what I was dealing with. Because it lets me know, A, I'm not going to get anything. Unless it's due to a lack of interest in them. And if I were to run towards that, that would still be admitting interest, so that kind of, self-destructs. Caterpillar. Meh. I don't want to get better at this. I'm gonna be real. But I will. Because I value myself more than I value my relationship with them. So what if I'm crazy? All the best people are. And I think you're crazy too. I know you're gone. It's probably the reason that we get along. What? Maybe is not the craziest friend that you ever had. You think I'm psycho, you think I'm gone. Tell the psychiatrist something is wrong. Over the bend, nearly bonkers. You get me best if I'm a rocker. Nah, equals chosen indifference. Mm. Ah, the interesting part about this chart is that it's specific to that person. If I were to draw this out for like Lillian, Pyro, Willow, Coral, Lua, or any of the other people I'm interested in and or actually interact with, then the shape of it would be completely different. Which means I technically don't know what lies across the other side of this. I was able to fucking probably build some kind of bullshit that let me take a peek, but it wasn't enough, stable enough, or consistent enough to actually be there as a calmer version of myself. And it's not my responsibility to do that either. Hmm. The nightmare fantasy obsession. Honestly, yes and no. You could technically swap these two. which is really the annoying part. You could just swap them back and forth endlessly, and I'd still be left standing there looking confused, going, "How the fuck am I supposed to scale that?" Because that is achievable. That is achievable, and I'm not gonna pretend it isn't. Oh, I want to work towards a life of self-warmth. All I did was add a dot on here, yay. I'll create new from clipboard. Why do I have this labeled death if I wouldn't label it the same thing for the others? Because the other person would not free me from that. They would not fight to pull me out of there. I would have to fight for myself, and I have fought for myself. They wouldn't know how to anyways, even if they wanted to, and I don't want to put them through that. Do not save. Okay. That is just a general desire. And that is a personal desire. Scalable. Because if that obsession into whatever the fuck else is down here, then a healthy relationship would be in the middle on the like a nice little meeting point where both people could just visit each other pretty easily. Oh. Mm, I know this is possible. I've achieved it like a few times, but then it's like, hmm? Information? And then I just tumble back down to like here. It's fucking pain in the ass. I'm gonna want to write over this or do another parallel line of each that overlooks the flaws in the lines of thinking here. Because these are very defensively written. And I don't want to have only defensive answers for practical reality. I want reasonable and understandable answers. That's what the blue text. No, not even like the blue text. Wow. These guesses of motive, definitely overwhelmed. Yeah, I wish I knew a better way to go about this. Alright, let me rephrase that. I wish I had the dedication, drive, self self-discipline, restraint, and otherwise to just go for it like some people do. But the reality is, I'm not those people, so I've got to work through what I've got. Cinnamon agitation. Crypt of the Necrodancer. Probably. Why do I remember that? It's not that you remember it, that's that we piece the information together. In some regard, yes, in another regard, no. Let's stop. Yeah, let's stop. See you all in the next video. Things just aren't working out like I thought they would. But we're still here. Hope things keep getting better for you all.